Welcome to Unemployed and Afraid, a podcast that explores the glorious mess of building your own business with the people doing it. I'm your host and fellow business builder, Kim Curtin. Thank you for being here. Let's get into some good, honest, small business chat. Pop a hand up if you've ever said the words, "I'm not creative enough." Or maybe you said that you're not analytical enough, organised enough, or whatever not enough thing we might have told ourselves. I reckon I've said all of those. But imagine letting that thought stop you from creating your own career and business structure that makes you feel stoked to get out of bed every single day. Mims, she's a personal branding photographer and educator who I'll tell you more about in a sec, told herself one of those stories a long time ago. But thankfully, she wrote a new one. In Fee's story of building a business she loves, you're going to hear about overcoming the belief that you're not creative enough for something, getting over the fear of being seen, refocusing from a desired outcome onto the momentum we're creating, why never to settle regardless of age, how and why to keep showing up, and an argument for taking your interesting connections out to dinner. Let's get into it. I'm here with Mims, renowned as one of Australia's leading personal brand photographers, who is also an incredible business mentor and coach, specialising in personal branding and visibility. Put simply, Fee makes clients look and feel their best. Her photographs show them as authentic, beautiful, powerful, and her coaching supports them to find self-belief, independence, and purpose. And there's a reason these two aspects are combined, which we'll get into throughout our chat, I'm sure. Fee is working with female thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners to help elevate their brand and amplify their message in an authentic way. With her Shine membership and mastermind program, it's a business that started almost 20 years ago, and one that took Fee on a journey to create a business that makes her excited to get out of bed every day. In her own words, she worked her ass off to create a successful business and get to a point of self-belief. No program you sign up to will get you a get-rich-quick result. You cannot avoid the hard work, but you can have a wing woman in your back pocket helping get it done. Amen to that. That's something I can get right around. Fee, welcome to Unemployed and Afraid.
Thanks, Kim. So good to be here.
I want to learn a little bit more about you through the eyes of someone who loves us the most, your best friend. So think about that person and how might they describe you?
Oh, gosh. Probably as hardworking, loyal, nice. I don't know if anyone likes being called nice, but I think I'm always in the nice corner. Trustworthy. I'm a Virgo as well. So Virgos are very loyal. I probably describe myself that way. I can be very stubborn. I'm a bit of a perfectionist in a good way these days, not a bad way.
We're recording this at a time where, now I'll probably get this wrong because I am most certainly not an astrologer, but we're recording this at a time when I think Mercury is in retrograde in Virgo in particular. So this is like your time. There's a bit going on for you.
I would say, like, just to follow up your question, that thinking of the best friend I've got in mind, she would probably listen to my answer right then and go, "Oh my God, that was terrible. You are this, 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 and this." And she would pump me up much more, right? Because isn't that what our friends do? And I probably just downplayed myself totally, which is exactly what we do as women in business. So there's a tangent to go off on straight away.
I couldn't relate to this anymore. You know, I have spent a lot of time lately talking about the need for us all to just get over ourselves, stop clutching our pearls at the thought of self-promotion, and just put your work out there and find a way to get yourself out there and avoid being invisible. Yet every day I'm like, oh, I should record like a piece to camera for socials because it really helps me brand build. Then I'm like, no, not today. I don't want to put any makeup on. So, you know, we cannot always be perfect. I think that's such a big part about learning how to get ourselves out there is, you know, you learn to have the intent and then you learn to have the follow through, and they don't always match.
Absolutely.
So you've been in this business, or in business for yourself, might I say, 20 odd years now, which is incredibly impressive and takes, a lot of resilience, and I'm sure so many learnings. But it is different back then. It was different to how it looks today. So when you were starting out in business for yourself, what did it look like and how did you end up there?
Oh, gosh, yeah, it was really different. How did I end up there? I never really, as someone sort of going through high school and even university, I never really knew what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something that I really loved, that wasn't probably sitting at a desk as a bit of a number cruncher, that had a bit of purpose to it, although I probably didn't call it purpose at the time. I probably just really wanted something with purpose, something I loved, something that also brought others joy. And that was my only sort of tick list. And I think I had thought about photography for a while, but I just had never really thought of myself as creative. So it took me a long time to really take those steps. And I tell a story around when I was in London on the 2-year working holiday break. I took myself off to the National Portrait Gallery where I saw these incredible large-scale close-up portraits of people on the wall. And I'd already been sort of thinking about photography for a while, but that was my moment when I saw those photos, specifically of people, because that's always been my thing. And I was like, no, that is what I want to do. I really want to do that. I want to take photos of people that are really moving, like these ones on the wall. And that was sort of probably the beginning or my turning point for the beginning of my journey. I came back to Australia. I had obviously part-time and full-time jobs during the day, but I signed up for a photography course. And it's sort of, I just really never looked back from there. I ended up working for one of my tutors in that course who had a wedding studio. And I did weddings for the first 10 years of my career. Then I had kids and I transitioned into business photography, which is where I very quickly became passionate about particularly working with women in business, which has been the last 10 to 15 years. So I've been saying I've almost been in business for 20 years for a few years now. So I think I'm pretty sure I'm over 20 years now. I've got to change those words. But yeah, it's been a long time. And look, back then, I remember that there was always like, I've got to make sure I'm listed in the yellow pages so people can find me. And I remember going in person to workshops because there wasn't really online courses back then as well. So a lot of business came via referral or just, I suppose, online advertising in things like the yellow pages. It was pre-social media. That really, and even then, even when social media came, it sort of took a while, I think, really for businesses to harness that, didn't it? So yeah, I mean, in some respects, it was easy. It was a little bit more simple, but I do love all the ways it's changed as well. And also as a photographer, it was back sort of in the film days too. So that's even changed everything. Yeah.
Wow, that is so much change to see in one career, just like what it looks like before, what it looks like now. Like even just in, 4.5 years, the media landscape has changed so much from, the last time I was in sort of, full-time corporate media to now, like learning about content marketing and just all the changes has been such a learning curve. But there's something that you said there that sort of stood out to me because I think that there are a lot of us that have this moment where for some reason you think or believe you're not creative enough or, creative at all to be able to follow what is depicted as a creative career. And I think that's something that is one of those barriers to entry for any kind of business or any kind of pivot that can be such a big roadblock for us to go on that journey to realize that actually everybody's creative if you nurture that side of yourself and it's something you want to nurture as well. Like that's enough of a sign to be able to go on that creative journey. But I think, when you go from I didn't feel creative to now, I'm an incredible photographer, take me to the Fee who was like picking up a camera for the first time and having to take a bloody photo and show someone, to be like, here's my thing that I just did. Take a look at it. Like, what did that feel like to overcome that barrier of not feeling like you were creative enough?
It took a lot of years, to be honest. Like, I think because of my stubbornness, I never let it stop me, which is what I love about my personality traits, that I was just like so stubborn. I wanted it to work so much that I have just worked and worked at it for, even now 20 years, because I think we get to a certain point in business where we maybe attain or reach that skill level we wanted to reach. And then, of course, there's another level, right? So we're continually pushing through those issues and thoughts. But it was probably the start of imposter syndrome for me, which again, I wouldn't have known what it was back then, but probably the first almost 10 years of my business. And even again, then when I transitioned over into business photography, I really did struggle with imposter syndrome and just thinking I potentially wasn't good enough to do this as a job. And I think I just really, again, I fought those negative thoughts and I probably was just continually reframing them and telling myself that I didn't have to be the best photographer in the world. I just wanted to do photography and that push, that pull really overrode any of those negative feelings. And I think that's the important thing. Like when I think about, how business owners sometimes struggle with negative thoughts, I'm like, well, what's more important? How badly you want to do this business and make it successful, or what you think people might think about your skill level, or what you're telling yourself about your skill level. Like at the end of the day, doing what you love is what matters. So I think that always was my greater push, just always mattered more than those negative thoughts.
Such great advice. And gosh, as someone who does battle with perfectionism at times, like internalized perfectionism, not necessarily externalized. I think most people will know how I rock up to things. I'm like, oh, look, I'm here. Like you just do your best, you show up, you put things out there. And I have that side, but internally that, battle to want to be the best at whatever it is that you produce is just such a deep-seated barrier to putting things out there. And I think that reframe that you've just offered, which is, the time it takes, the commitment it takes, and being able to block out those around you, what other people think about what you're doing, and just do the thing that you enjoy and follow the path is such a great reframe. I often romanticize what it might look like if we did go back to Yellow Pages days, where we couldn't so easily see everybody's end result and what might be being produced with the tools that are at our hands now. If we didn't just see everybody else's use of the tools and everybody else's creativity, like what a utopian world that would be.
Yeah. I have so many conversations with, I'll say women, because that's mostly who I work with, particularly around this sort of idea of visibility and showing up and imposter syndrome. And even just earlier this week, I had a conversation with women about how when they're online, it's so easy to slip into that trap of comparing yourself to others. That's sort of one thing that often comes up. But the other thing is with social media, the idea that your family and friends are watching you. And I know that also gets to a lot of people. And I think, it's a conversation where it's really easy to go, you know what, just don't think about it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, isn't it also kind of good that we care that what people think? So it's kind of finding, like if I'm coaching someone, I don't want to be the coach that goes, oh, you just don't need to worry about it, because I think it's really nice that we do care so much about people in the world, but we have to find that balance of knowing what matters most. And you know what, if Auntie Betty doesn't like what we're putting on content on social media and we can't stop her following us, well, that's okay. That's okay, because she's not our ideal audience, right? And again, what matters more, that we're doing what we love or that Auntie Betty likes our posts? So, it all comes back to that, doesn't it? Like, what do we really want to get out of our life, and what's the work we really deeply, passionately want to do?
You're casting my memory back to an earlier episode, a couple of earlier episodes I had. One was with Amy McNee, who is behind Inspired to Write. And I've talked about her actually in another podcast recently, but she tells a story that she blocked everybody she knew when she started her Instagram page. Every single person, she just blocked them so they didn't know what she was doing and just went for it. And that was the only way that she could get through it. And I often think about that and think, had I had my time again, you can't do it so much in podcasting. And also you need your network sometimes, but maybe that could have been something that would have expedited my own personal growth and confidence to put things out there, because peer review is a bad thing in the sense of what we're talking about now. It's a great thing in context to research, of course, but in the context of what we're talking about now, performing in front of our peers just feels so bad because they know us as one version, and to see a different version, it's very, very confronting. But there is so much to be said for just having a little bit of faith, or even communicating with them. Someone else said to me, I always forget my references. It's just, toxic trait. But someone else said to me, like, if there's someone in your mind who's blocking you, it's usually one or two people that you're like, oh, I just don't want that person to judge me, or I don't want that person to laugh at me or be like, cringe, what are they doing? Sometimes it can actually be really empowering to have that conversation with them and to say, I appreciate you and I respect you, but you are somebody who is a block to me because I appreciate and respect you so much that the thought of you judging my work, which is so much about how I feel, not about the person, it can actually be a really empowering conversation to have, because they're going to reinforce, be like, oh my God, no, I would pump up whatever you did. Like, it's often so much more different than what we think.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we always have a tendency to go to the worst places in our minds, right? We always think of the worst rather than what's the best case scenario here. Maybe she loves what I do. It's a real vote for why we need to surround ourselves with people that will support us, right? Which again, it can be hard to find your tribe a little bit in business. But when people say to me, what are, the things potentially that have helped you succeed in business, finding a supportive group of people, whether that's biz besties or maybe coaches I've worked with or just communities I've joined, networking, they really they're such a big part of your journey, aren't they? Because you're right, we might have these family and friends over in our corner, but they don't really get it as well. And sometimes it's hard to talk to them about the challenges we have as business owners. I think it's just almost a non-negotiable to have a huge, shield of support around you. And I think, having a partner that supports you is really important. And I know not everyone always has that, particularly in the early days of business when they see us working so hard for so little money. They're like, why are you doing that? I think you need to give up your hobby and go get a job that's going to pay more. And, my husband has always been the most amazing support to me. And it came from a place of love. But even in my early days, he'd be like, oh my God, you work so many hours. Why don't you just go and get a job in a supermarket and you're going to earn the same amount of money for much less work? And of course, my answer was always because, I would wake up miserable every day, whereas I wake up happy every day, even knowing I'm working hard. And of course, I worked and it ended up had a great successful business, which I'm still growing. But, having support from our partners and, finding people in the business community who really get it and are on the same journey as you, I think that's a huge part of being successful in business and feeling good about yourself as well.
Gosh, we do a lot of hours for very little at different stages of our businesses, don't we? It's extraordinary to look at sometimes. So yeah, that one hits home. I fully believe in, an abundance mindset as well. Is so much about what you're receiving back so often, even if you do get the temptation to look at that monetary side of it, but what you're getting back in terms of personal growth and, the kindness that you get to give to others and receive from others through having business communities, it all adds up. And, it does. It is perhaps at the beginning, not the most financially fulfilling journey, but that comes and there's just so much more in it. But you did what we kind of talked about there twice. So you stepped out to your family and friends as a photographer, and then you had a pivot in your business where you had to step out and be the coach, and that different kind of mentality of what you're doing now, mentoring and coaching and supporting other people. So that's another whole version of stepping out in front of your peers again as this new person. Take me on that journey. What brought you to do it and what was it like?
It was like going back and starting again in some respects. So it brought back all those original feelings of, am I good enough? Can I do this? Starting out as a wedding photographer. And then again, when I started photographing personal branding for women and corporates. So it was definitely scary, but I suppose when you've got that history behind you as well, you're like, no, I can do this. And I think also I made a point of always saying to myself, you know what? Things don't happen overnight. Everything is a journey. And I think momentum is something we underestimate in business. We'll give something a go, let's just say social media, and we're posting, every day for a few months or every week for a few months. And if we haven't suddenly changed exponentially, we're like, oh my God, it's not working. But I think things take time and you have to let momentum kick in. And also I think with time for many women, but definitely for myself, confidence builds with time and experience as well. So I have really built that over the last few years. I think it was 2020, I launched my membership because thanks COVID, you gave me the time to do that. And to answer the second part of your question, the reason why I did that is because actually there's really two reasons. One is that I'm a huge advocate for us using the skills we have gained and learnt over many, many years. I don't think we should ever get to, I turned 50 last year and I work with a lot of women in that 40 plus, 50 plus age bracket. And the last thing we should be doing is getting to this age and going, oh, well, I've kind of got to, settle down now, or, this is it for me. I think, we have so many skills that we can share with people either around the same age or even younger that I think we should be utilising those skills. And that's really what I wanted to do. I'd worked with women, particularly with their personal branding photography for a number of years. And I knew that women would take those photos, they'd love the photos, they'd post some photos, but they still were struggling to show up. They were still struggling to be visible. They were still struggling to build their personal brand, because your personal brand is not just about photos, right? There is so much more to it. So I just wanted to work with women in a much deeper way around their personal brand, which is what made me actually launch the membership. And now, as you said, I have a mastermind as well. Absolutely love coaching. I have a lot of confidence in that area now compared to 2020. It does take time, but I wanted to help women in a deeper way and use my skills, But I also probably as someone who I could feel I was getting older, and let's be real, I love getting older, but you get tired a bit quicker. And I just thought, well, you know what do I want to be in 5 or 10 years from now? Where do I want to be? I do still want to be doing photography, but I probably don't want to be shooting 3 or 4 days a week because it's pretty labor intensive and I love it. But you know what else can I do with my skills? How else can I help people? And I think, again, maybe long-term planning is something small business owners, we often don't stop and think about. And I think that's really important too. Because, we're all going to get older, and where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Often I think we're so overwhelmed with everything on our plate right now, we don't step back and look ahead, and I find that really important. But I love the business side of my work. I love that just as much as the photography side, which I think I'm really blessed to enjoy both of those. So I love all the planning and, okay, well, what do I want to do in the next year or 5 years or 10 years? I think that's really fun to sort of sit back and visualize that and then plan it out as well.
Yeah, you're so right. We hear advice so often about the key to business longevity is diversification, and how can you add complementary services or grow your business out in line with what the market is doing and how the market is changing as well. And, it's a term that sort of just gets thrown around there a little bit, but, more practically, considering how it lands for your own business, it does make such a logical sense. You're getting incredible images done for your build of your visual personal brand. There's so much more to personal branding that comes into that, how you show up online, the words that you use, the language that you use, where you show up online, all of those aspects play such a big part of it, and how confident you feel. It makes a lot of sense, but always, like these things, it makes sense in retrospect. So I know, because I've read, we've chatted, and so I know you went through a process of the actual learning required to become a coach, which, I think, again, at any stage, for any business owner, undertaking a re-education or anything like that is a bit of a full-on ask. What was it like going back to school? Talk me through coaching school. What was that like?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. If I can give them a shout out, I did a course with the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. And I know the founder of the academy. I've known her for many, many years, pre-photography, but I have also photographed a lot of their events over the years. So I've been in the community as a photographer for many years, and they just do incredible work. So it was an online course and it was great. And I think, look, your values is something I think that's important in terms of personal branding, and growth is one of my top values. So I love learning. And I think as well, as a business owner, entrepreneur, I think you have to enjoy learning because, as you said at the start, the market changes. How we work changes so dramatically all the time, particularly these days. So we have to be open to learning new things and working in different ways. So I'm also someone who didn't want to go out and claim to be a coach without knowing that I had the right skills. And the Beautiful You course was absolutely perfect. They just they over-deliver in terms of content and support, and it was really nice to go through that process and feel like I did have a structure, a framework to go out and know that I was at least coaching in the right way, and then just obviously building on that experience. So I think it's learning new skills is one of the best parts of running your own business, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm such a toxic learner. It's a bit of a problem. Like I've actually recognized and I did an episode about this that actually got
I listened to that. That was one of my first episodes I listened to, and I laughed because I think we can all relate. We've got about 10 or if not more courses on our computer we haven't been able to look at.
Oh, gosh, it's such a toxic trait. I even just the other day, one of my favorites, re-education places, the Digital Picnic, released this incredible course on video editing. I was like, I have to do it. And I'm like, Kim, you're doing it again. You can't right now. Like, just park it, know that it will be there in 2 months when you can actually, prioritize the time that it's going to take. Like, do not buy and let it sit on the desktop. do not do that.
I do know someone who years ago said to me that she gets around that by she does not let herself buy a new course until she's completed the last one. But I remember listening to that going, oh, wow, I don't know if I could ever do that. I wouldn't get very far.
Since I recorded that episode, I think I still have the same amount of online courses that I haven't finished. But on that topic of online courses and coaching, there is definitely a cultural narrative that has been evolving over the last probably 18 months. Perhaps I live in an echo chamber, so maybe I'm just hearing it. But what I think is really important as business owners and finding the right people that we want to work with is placing that care and that consideration to the people, their history, their why and the education that they've received, because there are a lot of bullshit coaches out there, right? Like you're in an industry where there's a lot of people showing up who haven't taken that time commitment to re-educate and to study and to be really focused on what they're bringing, and to also have the years of experience behind in order to teach from. You've got a lot of competition who may have bigger marketing budgets and, you know, noisier voices, but not even a quarter of what you can offer to your clients. So how do you stand out and cut through that noise with your own marketing?
I mean, it comes back to personal branding. It really does. And messaging. Absolutely. You have to, and I think being very clear on who you want to work with, how you help them, and why, like you said, your big why behind that, because people will work with you based on why you do what you do, more so than what you do. Because like you just said, there are a lot of coaches out there. There's probably a lot of coaches saying they'll help you in very similar ways, but people will connect with you for the way you work, the way you sound, the way you talk. And so I think it's very important to have your messaging really clear so that when you do show up, whether that's in an image or in a caption or in a blog or in a podcast interview, knowing how you want to help people, who they actually are, the results and all the benefits that they're going to experience, the transformation that you're going to be able to hopefully help them with, being really clear on that messaging so that the listener on the other end will go, oh, it sounds like she's speaking just to me. She really gets me. She gets my problems. She gets my challenges. And I think she could actually be someone who could really help me through that. I think we have to be much clearer on our messaging than we probably have ever had to be in the past. Absolutely. And I have a brilliant coach myself, and that's one of the things she talks about a lot, just being super clear on your messaging and the need, because we are in a really oversaturated world now with so many messages and so much marketing. We have to not necessarily be louder, but just be clearer on who we're talking to. So people, when they get that few seconds of us, they're like, yep, I want to hang around and hear more. She's my person.
It is, yeah, so important to get it out there. So overwhelming for people sometimes as well to like whittle down through your message and, you know, who you're talking to and finding those aspects. It's, it can be a hard one. A practical question for you. Where are you getting your clients from the most at this stage? What's working for you?
It is a mix. I would say with my photography work, I'm pretty blessed because I have been around for a long time. So a lot of that does tend to be referral. But I will say people will still book me and say, oh, I've been following you for a long time. I've never heard of them, but they're like, I've been following you for a long time, whether that's on LinkedIn or, you know, probably over on Instagram. So definitely social media. And I probably, if I'm talking from the photography perspective, having a really good visual aspect to my work is, you know, I'm pretty lucky because I get to put my work out there and people get to see that more so, you know, than something intangible like coaching, I think. With the coaching side of things, probably I would say social media again, and a mix of social media and networking. I talk a lot about coaching related things in terms of, I suppose, my 3 pillars I work with people on are personal branding, mindset, and marketing. So I talk a lot about those things on my social media. So I think a lot of people find that and it resonates with them. So they stick around, they learn a little bit more. They might come to one of my networking dinners, which I hold every 3 months. They might join my membership. And then from there, they sort of take that journey through to coaching or something different. So it's a real mix, but probably does come down to mostly social media or referrals.
It's funny that the linking, I guess, overarching message in both of those things is it takes time and commitment. And to you that's listening, that's like, oh God, I just don't have the energy for this. I feel you, because you do realize how quickly these things are just so important to commit to and to have patience with and to find the little wins along the way with all of the work that you put out there that gets absolute crickets. It never ceases to amaze me. Someone's like, I hear this a lot about how I show up on LinkedIn a lot. It's my happy place. It's my place of real connection. I find just the mindset, I think, is very focused on not so much being entertained, but being, you know, educated. And that fits with some of the things that I share on there.
Yeah.
I feel really comfortable there. And I find so often people say to me, oh, I've been really enjoying your LinkedIn posts. And I'm like, I have never seen you pop up with a like, a comment, a message, nothing. Like, you are no man's land to me. And yet it's making an impact. But it's like that constant breadcrumbing of who you are that's out there, which can be 2 months, 3 months, 2 years. It's hard to find that level of commitment with yourself to keep it going, to build a business. Have there been any practices or things that you've done consistently that have helped you stay committed throughout that process to keep showing up?
I mean, just in what you said there, I love that because I do get a lot of comments from people as well about, putting stuff out on social media and no one commenting on that. And we have to really remind ourselves that even if people aren't commenting, they are watching, they are looking. So it's so important to just keep showing up. And I suppose that's one thing I have always done. I think consistency in business is just so important, and I have just never stopped showing up and sharing what I do. And I think that's really been a big part of growing my business, taking people on that journey of, well, this is what I'm doing now. This is who I'm working with now. This is what I'm thinking now, and just consistently showing up. I just say that again, consistency. It's huge. And just, I suppose also just making sure I'm always doing what I love, always looking for new ways of, helping people, following up with past clients, staying in touch with people, offering a really good experience so that, I feel good about my work, but I know my clients are getting a good experience too. I think that's really helped because it does bring new people into your world, because if people go away having a great experience, they will talk about you. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
It does. And it actually reminds me, so much of that. The easiest client you'll ever get is the one you've already got. I mean, that sounds, hugely transactional in a business that I appreciate is quite also supportive and kind and emotional in the work that you do. But we hold that in the same sphere as we all get paid, and we are a business. Yeah. And, so it's about, finding how you can grow the clients that you have or have had in the past. And you work so hard to build your networks. You work so hard to build your client base. To constantly be in a cycle of new client is just exhausting. And I agree with you that it's such an underrated approach. It's such an underrated practice to get into, to just stay connected with people you've worked with in the past, just to be like, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. I have all sorts of crazy reminders in my Google Calendar. It might be once a week I have a reminder to reconnect with a past guest, because I'm so blessed to have this incredible network that I get to spend this time, with, having a deep conversation and creating it so that more of us can hear the insides of each other's businesses to keep going. And I don't ever want to lose that connection, because, it's powerful. And so it's like a constant reminder of like, check in with 2 previous guests this week, or reach out to this person. I'm constantly like at the end of an interaction, setting another simple task in Google for 2 months later to be like, just send an email. And I think that's something that is really underrated in that cycle of clients.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview this week, and the guy being interviewed was talking about reaching out to interesting people as one of the things that he thinks will grow a successful business and help you grow in many ways. But yeah, he was literally like, obviously there needs to be some kind of maybe connection there, or when you reach out to people, you need to show that you know something about them and there's a reason why you're reaching out. But he's like, one of the things we need to do is just reach out to people that we're interested in. Like, I mean, we got connected by someone, but maybe I listened to your podcast and I'm like, oh, she sounds really fascinating. I would love to get to know her better. So I could have just reached out to you and said, hey, why don't we have coffee? Or can I take you to dinner? I'd love to learn more about what you do. And it really got me thinking, because I know we network in business, but we probably don't do that enough, maybe out of fear as well. But, reaching out to someone that we really admire and going, hey, can I get to know you? Can I take you to lunch or to dinner? And just, I'd love to have a conversation and find out more about what you do and really build those relationships. Because I think relationships, whether it's your support crew or your coaches or others, I think relationships are really important, and surrounding yourself with people that are going to help build you as a person, but build your business as well. I think that's really important. And being okay in business with getting a no as well. I mean, I could have mentioned so many other things in that answer to that last question, but, being okay with failure, if you want to class it as failure, like asking to work with someone and them saying no, or trying something and it maybe not working out, which that's what marketing's like, right? You've got to throw 20 things at the wall and see which ones stick and which ones work the best for you. So I think having that willingness to try different things, to reach out to people, to just try different marketing strategies and see what works. I think all of that is so important. And I suppose that comes back to resilience as well, really, as a trait. Just having that resilience in business is one of the best traits or tools you can have as well to keep you growing.
Absolutely. You're so right. I think so many of us underestimate how nice it is for someone to reach out and be like, I really like the work that you're doing. I would love to take you for a coffee and get to know you and hear about how you do what you do. I would never say no to that.
I know, it'd be flattering, right?
Now, I mean, there's cases I would say no to that for sure, if it felt a little creepy. But if anyone has ever thought for me, like, hey, I'd like to get to know her better, great, please slide into my DM. I literally say at the end of every episode, please send me a goddamn message. Get in touch with me. Podcasting is a medium where you're like, hello, is anybody out there?
Yeah.
I can see that a lot of you are listening, but the you that's listening right now, like, how are you? It's a strange medium. So yeah, I'm all up for those kinds of connections. And in fact, it has been something that, I have been doing myself more of lately and receiving myself more of lately. Again, LinkedIn seems to be a more natural place that it happens. You get loads of people, that work in the podcasting industry that'll pop up in the DMs, be like, hey, can we just can we just have a chat? And I'm like, yes, I will absolutely talk to you about my favorite topic on the planet.
And I think LinkedIn feels really authentic at the moment too, right? And there's a lot more, I think, longevity in terms of conversations and posts. Like, Instagram is my main home, but man, it's like a 24-hour cycle over there. It's crushing. It is relentless. You can still build great relationships, but it's constant. But LinkedIn, I just think it's such a good space at the moment for, building relationships. People don't put up with shit over there, I don't think. They've got a good sniffometer if you're just talking bullshit or just trying to sell to people. But it's a great space to have those conversations.
If you're a Reddit user or have ever been a Reddit researcher, I like to pop up into Reddit every now and then and learn about consumer insights and things like that. It's a really great subreddit called LinkedIn Lunatics. And now, while I don't like the term of the use, lunatics, the feed itself is fantastic. And it's like, I got divorced on the weekend. Here's what it taught me about B2B sales. And honestly, it just kills me. So yes, they exist, but I agree with you. Back to the management of your two sides of your business, the photography and the servicing of your current clients in membership and in mentoring. How do you manage those two aspects from a workload, but also a headspace perspective, and also the sourcing of new? I think about this a lot with businesses like yours. It's such a practice of managing the clients that you have and delivering on the service that you have committed to delivering for them, and then making sure that pipeline is full and you're, getting new people on. How are you managing this at the moment?
To answer the first part of your question, I have a really great team around me. I have an incredible online business manager, Talia, who I could not run my business without. And I outsource in a lot of other areas. I outsource my bookkeeping. I outsource my retouching. I even have a lot of help with my editing of my galleries these days. I'm really strict on overseeing pretty much everything in my business, and particularly with my photography. I would always quality control any work, but I have built a really solid team around me. And I love talking about that because I think people think you do things all yourself. I'm like, nah, I even like my social media. I had someone help me with my social media for the past 3 years. I've just taken it back in-house myself, but I had a lot of help with that, which again helped me build a lot of consistency on the platform, build my profile. But I think one of the things I do say to the women I work with is as soon as possible, just get some help in your business, because it's the only way I personally believe you will grow, because we only have so many hours in the day. I think you'd have to be a bloody superwoman to be able to grow your business in massive ways on your own. Not to say it can't be done. I know some incredible entrepreneurs who, they've got babies and they get like 6 hours a week and they still have amazing businesses. I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, you're incredible. But I just think we wait too long in business to seek help and invest in help because of that fear around investing. But I think there's small ways we can do it where it's not putting our business at risk or our cash flow at risk. So that is how I managed to do all the things. And what was the second part of your question? Oh, the pipeline. Look, I'm really glad you brought that up, because with the people I work with in my mastermind and my membership, when I ask them, what's the number one challenge you have in business? Is it this, or this? It's almost always revenue and more clients. I think that's what we all need, right? And I think the market is definitely getting harder because there's still a stack of people out there, but your marketing has to be so on point and you have to show up through all the noise, and there's a lot more competition out there, a lot more other people doing the same work we are. So it is hard to find new clients, and I think, and I'll be completely honest here, one of the biggest challenges in my business right now is audience growth. And I think the only way you get new clients is through finding those ways that will build your audience. I think on social media, we can put so much time and energy into that work, but actually growing our audience on there is still really hard. I think you've got to find the strategies for that. And yep, as I just said, I think it's really hard. You've got to work hard at it. Otherwise, we need to really diversify our efforts. So, go and network, try paid ads, try and extend your lifetime customer value. What else can you do with your current or past clients? Who can you set up referral systems with? Like, I think we can't put all our eggs in one basket. We have to not necessarily do everything as well, but try different things, understand where our potential clients are. And then if we find something, or maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sort of funnels or platforms that really work for us, then just lean into those really hard. Because I think we still get stuck in this, I need to just be over on social media and people will find me there. And I just don't think it happens the way we think it will happen. It is really hard. It's great with your current audience, but it's really hard to find new followers because we're all trying to unsubscribe from things, right? I don't know about you, but I'm every day going into my inbox saying, what can I unsubscribe from today? I love you, but we don't have the time.
I am absolutely on this unsubscribe tangent as well. And it's like, you start with the easy things. It's like, okay, the fashion retailers that I really enjoy that are tempting me with their cute things every day. No, you got to go. That's too much noise in that inbox. You got to get out of here. So yeah, I'm on a bit of an unsubscribe tangent at the moment as well. One thing that you mentioned in there that stood out to me in particular is the referral system. I've thought about this quite a lot lately because I've had a few conversations with amazing business owners recently. And I know, I've had like an idea for their business at some point, or we've talked about a struggle that they've had, and whenever I mention referrals, it's like a light bulb goes off. I think it's something that we forget about, and being absolutely explicit with the ask. If you've got a community, for example, if you have an engaged community in Facebook, even if it's 100 people, asking them to say, hey, I need to do this for my business. Can you help me by doing this action? Specifically saying, here's a tile for you. Can you put this on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Here's a story. Can you put this on your Instagram and promote my business for me? Yep. Actually asking people what you want them to do, right down to formal referral systems of, you've been a client to me before. Could you refer somebody else? Your clients know other clients that are in your ethos because they get you. They already know who you are. So it surprises me how often that gets pushed down to the bottom of the list.
I like the idea of affiliates, which I don't think are used in a huge way in Australia yet. I think the Americans are great at it. And when I have talked to a few different people in my community about it, they have this really negative attitude towards affiliate marketing, like they're promoting something for the kickback. And I always say to them, like, well, you wouldn't promote anything you don't really support anyway. And why can't you look on it as someone just saying, hey, thank you so much for helping promote my business and bringing someone new into my, into my community, into my network. Here's, your 10% or your $50 or whatever it is. So I think we have a bit of a hurdle to get over that still, because I think that is also a really great way we can build new people into our business. I have someone who I've worked with previously, and she had a real issue with showing up on social media platforms and the whole idea of marketing. It was a real struggle to her. And I don't think that's anything that's uncommon in small business, right? And I said to her, we need to sort of remove that word from your vocabulary. How about thinking of it, instead of trying to sell yourself or market yourself, you are inviting people to work with you. And I really love that. I think I heard someone else use that. I won't claim that idea as my own, but I heard someone else talk about that as well in an interview. How good a podcast? Can I just say that? I learned so much from podcasts, so much that I get to then pass on, to others. Yeah, they said, you're not marketing, you're inviting people to work with you. And I really think if you struggle with marketing, think of it that way. Like, if we're not showing up and sharing how we can help people, giving them that opportunity to discover us, to work with us, to solve their problem, we're actually not serving our audience or our potential clients.
So many of us, forget that. Of course, we wouldn't promote. Like, we always assume the worst when it comes to affiliates. I feel like we always assume the worst, that affiliates are like the MLMs and like it's all dodgy and it's all, it's like, really, as a human being at the end of the day, there are going to be some dickheads that are going to sell some stuff that they don't believe in just to make the money. Yes. But the majority of people don't actually have the guts to do something they don't believe in, as it is anyway. Most people are good people, is what I'm trying to say, and they will actually share the things that matter to them. And you know that if they're somebody that you've followed and you've connected with for a while, you know when something is authentic. You've got to trust yourself a little bit more with that. So I agree. I think affiliates are underrated. And
I think it comes back to what you said earlier about things take time, right, with customer journeys. Like if someone's trying to sell something to you and maybe it is affiliate marketing, you're still going to go back and check that person out that they're trying to promote or that they are promoting. Who have they worked with? What are their case studies? What are their testimonials? Go and follow them for a while. I think it's really natural that we all do that in business these days, because people talk about connection points, right? Whether it's people saying you need 7 or whether you need 70, we're somewhere in the middle there, right? And one of the reasons I love things like podcasts and video as a way to show up is because I think it really cuts through that connection that you need, that's necessary for you to be able to say, I want to work with someone. And my current coach, I chose to work with her because I listened to her podcasts for a few months, and then I'm like, oh my God, I love what she talks about. It's just all integrity, nothing fake about it. Because if you're showing up and talking, like, you've got to know your shit, right? Absolutely.
Absolutely. You can definitely hear through it when it comes to podcasts. There's no hiding. There is no hiding in this industry.
It's a great medium.
Oh, I mean, I could talk about this all day, every day. I am very, very passionate about this medium. I would like to find out from you as we, sort of get to the end of our incredible time together. Is there anything that's keeping you up at night at the moment, and how are you working through it, if so?
Well, I will say, sort of linking back to our last question about how do I do all the things, because I am also running a mastermind and a membership as well as still the photography side of my business, things have definitely ramped up in the last year because I'm in that transition phase of trying to find the balance of everything. So I have been lying awake a lot at night thinking I've got a lot on. But I will say, in response to that, about 2 weeks ago, I reached out. I've actually trialed a few people, but I found a new VA in my business. So probably it's just extending on my last answer that when you're really busy in business, don't just keep hitting the wall and heading to burnout. Just do something about it, which, back in 2018, I was really burnt out before I sort of turned a corner and changed everything up in my business. I was like, no, I'm not going to be like this for any longer than I need to be. So I've brought new help in. So that's probably it, really. I mean, I would take the opportunity to say things like AI that are coming into business and new technology, it excites me rather than worries me, because I think as small business owners, we deserve a few wins. And I think if these tools are used correctly, it really saves us a lot of time and money as small business owners. Like, I think, I know there's a lot of fear around these tools as well, and people losing jobs or, losing that authenticity. So I think, people have to be really careful in how they use them. But if anything, that kind of sort of excites me.
I tend to agree when it comes to AI. We can always look at something with a negative bias, which is our human instinct, but it's about reframing it. And once you understand the tools a little bit and how the tools are being used and how you can use them, it starts to become a little bit fun. And there are elements it doesn't need to do or take away from you, but there's elements where it can assist. So I'm greatly enjoying using some of the tools as almost like an assistant for a lot of things. And it's pretty fantastic. Fee, it has been such a joy to hear a little bit more about the inside of your business and all the challenges that it inevitably brings along the way, which is so much about what we try to do here for our listener with this podcast, is the inside of everybody else's businesses, so that you feel more connected and more understood and more seen to be able to get through all of the shit that no one talks about that we all face and all the chaos that comes along with it. So thank you for giving us a little bit of an insight into yours. In return, how can we support you to keep growing?
Oh, come over and visit me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Come and have a conversation. I love a voice message. Just come and get to know me. Come into my world. That would be great.
I love a voice message too. It's so enjoyable. But given that I'm a podcaster, I've noticed that I don't send one, I send 5, and I'm like, oh. I just delivered this person a podcast and I'm that person now. Great. Okay. But thank you again for being part of this show. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thanks, Kim, for having me. I hope it's been enjoyable for the listeners. And I love our conversations. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Unemployed and Afraid, the podcast for small business builders with your host, me, Kim Curtin. If you love it, you can say thanks with a star rating and a review. And of course, join the community on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us at Unemployed and Afraid wherever you're hanging out, and I'll see you there.